Dr. Frank Serafini. I'm a professor of literacy education and children's literature at Arizona State University, and it's nice to be talking to you on the International Literacy Day. My talk is about developing a critical multimodal literacies pedagogical framework, and I want to talk about some reasons for doing this and then a couple ideas for how we will move forward. The first thing is, why develop it? Because I think that there have been things that have happened that would require us to rethink what we mean by a literacy pedagogical framework. I particularly want to call your attention to three important theoretical shifts. The first one, moving from sort of cognitive views of literacy, or what Brian Street called autonomous models, cognitive thinking skills, to a notion of an ideological model, critical literacies, that we have, that meaning is more than just a cognitive operation that discovers the meaning in a text. And the second one is that we're moving away from simply written language, text-based literacies, to multimodal literacies, that children today need to make sense of a variety of modes, including image, sound, film, in addition to written language. The third one is that we're moving from some of the notions of codes and conventions associated with traditional semiotics to the ideas of semiotic resources and modalities more associated with the work of Halliday, Günter Kress, Theo van Leeuwen, and others in social semiotics. So the three components that I see of this critical multimodal literacies framework is, first, critical and social theories as a foundation, that we're looking at the work of Freire and Marx, critical literacies, multiliteracies, social versions of literacy, social constructivism, and culturally relevant and culturally sustaining pedagogies as some of the foundations for our literacy work. The second thing is the work around multimodality that I have been associated with for a long time, to recognize the multimodal nature of contemporary forms of representation and communication, talking about how different modes and semiotic resources perform this kind of work, how people orchestrate meaning through selections and configurations of various semiotic resources, and that the idea of meaning potential of these resources are always socially, materially, and culturally realized. The third one is sort of the work around multiliteracies, or literacies in the plural sense, that it's a socio-culturally embedded social practice, not simply an autonomous model. It's not something we just develop in our head and walk around and employ in different settings. It actually changes because of the nature of being literate in different settings. And this supports culturally responsive, child-centered, non-deficit approaches to literacy pedagogy, which I think is very important these days. Therefore, this sort of framework views literacy as a process of generating meaning and transaction with multimodal phenomena, including all the various modes mentioned here, from a variety of perspectives to meet and challenge the requirements of particular social, cultural, political, and historical contexts. So my four assertions for beginning to develop this kind of framework is, first of all, we have to understand we have a broader definition of what we mean by text. The things that we're reading go beyond written language, that they are multimodal ensembles embedded in social, cultural, and historical context. And because of this expanding or broader notion of text, we also have to expand the kind of interpretive repertoires that students bring for making sense and dealing with these more complex and elaborate multimodal ensembles. The third assertion is, this was the work of Tondreau and others, but notion of developing semiotic awareness, of paying attention to how different modes work, and that understanding the concept of signification, that certain things do mean things, and being aware for how symbolism takes place, for example, and how design, typography, and color can affect meaning potential. The last one is from the work of Halliday and others, this notion of developing a variety of meta-languages to support our discussions and interpretation of phenomena. We need a vocabulary for talking about some of this other stuff that we haven't developed as deeply as we've developed a language around language itself. Some lingering questions I have left at this time is, how do we do this in traditional ELA classrooms? How do we move beyond instructional approaches that focus primarily on decoding and fluency and phonemic awareness? going back to the original work on the 4 resources model of Luke and Freebody, we know that each of these individual resources are necessary but insufficient in and of themselves to really create literate human beings. And then I think it's important now we're seeing a lot of other and new disciplines being brought into the development of multimodal and visual literacies, and how do we develop a more comprehensive transdisciplinary perspective for instruction and literacy. I hope you have a great day, and thank you very much for allowing me to come and talk with you.